So here we have a clip of a relatively recent talk that was given by former President Clinton on the matter of the, let's say, Israel-Palestine issue. He's someone who was very deeply invested in trying to produce some sort of outcome that was somewhat peaceful and sustainable. You can actually see he gets quite emotional. It seems like he really did and continues to genuinely care about the well-being of everybody involved. He has a lot of real-world insight on the ground because he was deeply involved in negotiations. And he has some very important things to say on the matter.
I understand why young Palestinian and Arab Americans in Michigan think too many people have died. I get that. But if you lived in one of those kibbutzim in Israel, right next to Gaza, where the people there were the most pro-friendship with Palestine, most pro-two-state solution of any of the Israeli communities, were the ones right next to Gaza. And Hamas butchered them. And so then the people who criticize it are essentially saying, yeah, but look how many people you've killed in Ritalin. So how many is enough for you to kill to punish them for the terrible things they did? That all sounds nice until you realize, what would you do if it was your family and you hadn't done anything but support a homeland for the Palestinians, and one day they come for you and slaughter the people in your village? You would say, well, you'll have to forgive me, I'm not keeping score that way. It isn't how many we've had to kill, because Hamas makes sure that they're shielded by civilians. They'll force you to kill civilians if you want to defend yourself.
Okay, so let's pause it right there for a second, because he's already said a number of very big and important things that, are worth taking note of. And number one is that, people like to do this thing where they say, whoa, look how many Israelis have been killed and look how many Palestinians have been killed, as though that's some sort of valid metric of virtue or worthiness or guilt. And that's completely fallacious. That's got nothing to do with the truth. If there's a family of 5 people who live in a house, and then 1,000 people come towards the house with the clear intent to kill that family of 5, and all of these people are carrying knives and pitchforks and sticks, and people also will talk about, well, Israel has superior weaponry and firepower, etc., and they end up killing more people. Well, if 1,000 people with knives and stones are coming towards this house that has a family of 5 in it, and these 1,000 people are intent on killing the people in the home, and the people in that home, maybe the one person in the house, maybe the man of the house, the father of the family, the husband and father, has some firearms that will allow him to deal with all 1,000 of those people who only have knives, and he goes ahead and shoots and kills all 1,000 of those people that are coming to kill his family. There's nothing wrong with that. Not only is there nothing wrong with that, it's the correct and virtuous and honorable thing to do. It's exactly what he should do. If 1,000 people are threatening his family, and they only have knives, and he has firearms, and there's only 5 of them and 1,000 of the people who want to kill his family, he absolutely should use whatever means he has at his disposal to do what is necessary to eliminate the threat. And if there are 0 dead on his side and 1,000 dead on the other side, that would be the right, ideal, correct outcome that he should be pursuing. And if they came and killed one person in his family and he killed all 1,000 of them, well, it's only 1 dead on his side and 1,000 on their side. So what? The numbers are irrelevant. There are 0 people in his family who deserve to die, and 1,000 people on the other side that did deserve to die, that he had a moral responsibility to kill because they were threatening the well-being of his family. The numbers are not a metric of anything without context. Zero of the people, zero of the civilians who were killed in some of the most barbaric behavior that the world has ever seen on October 7th. Zero of them were a threat. Zero of them were trying to harm anyone. And as he said, those communities tend to be the people that were the most pro-peace and pro-integration and working with the Palestinians. And it didn't stop. That didn't stop the barbaric terrorists on October 7th from coming and just wiping them out wholesale. So the whole numbers thing is to present the comparison of the numbers on both sides is completely fallacious, and some people do it because maybe they just don't realize how little value it carries and how little it contributes towards the actual conversation. And probably a lot of people just repeat it because they've been gaslit into believing that it is true when it's not. But that's, first of all, the numbers are irrelevant. And Israel didn't ask for this war. Israel didn't want to start the war, and maybe, first of all the numbers that come out of Gaza come from Hamas. So the numbers are, to start with, completely unreliable. Remember the 1,000 people that Israel had killed in an airstrike in a hospital that turned out to be a rocket from within Gaza that was being fired with the intention to kill Israeli citizens that fell short and landed in a car park of a hospital and blew up a car. And that didn't stop every single corporate news outlet from putting on their front page within minutes the fact that Israel had just airstruck a hospital and killed 1,000 people, a number that came straight from Hamas. So first of all, the numbers are completely unreliable. Second of all, even if the numbers were reliable, the numbers are not a metric of the justice or correctness or righteousness or morality of any of this, because it all depends on the context. And then, on top of that, a big part of the context is that, and everybody knows this, for a while, a little even up until October 7th completely, and then even after October 7th for a while, there was this attempt to try to just ignore and pretend that we don't realize that Hamas is in breach of international law 24/7. They intentionally embed themselves among civilians and put women and children front and center ahead of them, so that if Israel wants to target the terrorists, civilians are going to be killed. Hamas asked for that. Hamas forced Israel into this war. Hamas puts civilians, women, children in harm's way intentionally because they want those numbers. And making that argument is literally just playing into Hamas's hands and into their game. So this whole thing about numbers is doesn't belong in the conversation at all.
Look, I worked on this hard. And the only time Yasser Arafat didn't tell me the truth was when he promised me he was going to accept the peace deal that we had worked out, which would have given the Palestinians a state on 96% of the West Bank and 4% of Israel, and they got to choose where the 4% of Israel was. So they would have the effect of the same land of all the West Bank. They would have a capital in East Jerusalem. They would have I can hardly talk about this. And they would have equal access all day, every day, to the security towers that Israel maintained all through the West Bank up to the Golden Heights. All this was offered, including, I will say it again, a capital in East Jerusalem and 2 of the 4 quadrants of the old city of Jerusalem. confirmed by the Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and his cabinet. And they said no. And I think part of it is that Hamas did not care about a homeland for the Palestinians. They wanted to kill Israelis and make Israel uninhabitable. Well, I got news for them. They were there first. Before there was, their faith existed.
I mean, again, he said it out loud. They're going on and on and on about how Israel's occupying and they just want a peace deal. They just want some land for themselves. You heard what they were offered. And Yasser Arafat said that he was going to accept the offer. He was going to accept the deal. And he didn't. He didn't accept it because they're not interested in a peace deal. They're not interested in peace and they're not interested in a deal. The only thing they're interested in is from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free of Jews. They want Jews out of the region. They want the whole thing for themselves. They're not interested in anything less. They're not prepared to compromise. And all the people who are just trying to help them get this, little bit of land that they deserve and that the poor people are entitled to and that Israel is occupying, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but supporting that is called being a useful idiot because they don't want it. They want you to push for it and to pressure Israel while they continue to engage in terrorism. Well, that's what it was once upon a time. At this point, they have people protesting in the streets of America and across Europe and Australia and everyone else saying from the river to the sea. They don't even hide it anymore. The only thing that changed is that they used to pretend that they were interested in some sort of, let's say, at least arguably reasonable sort of peace agreement. And now they just say the quiet part out loud. They're not interested. They want the whole thing. They won't settle for nothing less. They're not interested in anything less. They're interested in terror, in murder, and in taking the whole thing and getting rid of all the Jews. The irony is that they, all of these useful idiots are talking about Israel perpetrating genocide when Hamas and the Palestinian leadership and all of these people who are chanting from the river to the sea are actually advocating for a literal ethnic cleansing of the entire Middle East of Jews and getting rid of all the Jews in the Middle East. And then they go and complain and cry that Israel is guilty of a genocide. They're doing genocide. Please.
We still have to find a way to share the future. We cannot kill our way out of conflicts. But we do have to fight our way to safety. And make no mistake about it, we've got now Iran, a Shia state, the Hezbollah, a Shia sect, the Houthis, a Shia sect, now with Hamas, a Sunni Arab operation, united in thinking the only thing that we have to do is run every Jew out of Israel. And I'm sorry, but I'm not for that. I think that is wrong. It violates everything we've stood for. And in the end, it won't be good for the Palestinian people.
I mean, it's so obvious and simple and clear. All of these groups are taking advantage of and using the Palestinians for their own political gain. None of them clearly care about the Palestinians because all of them are engaging in behavior that are not going to lead to any better outcomes for the Palestinians. That includes the Palestinian Authority, it includes Hamas, it certainly includes the Iranian regime and Hezbollah and the Houthis. It includes all of them. None of them care about the well-being of the Palestinian people. Because everybody knows that their behavior is not going to lead forward and improve anything for them. But they continue to do it anyway because they're taking advantage of and using the Palestinian people for their own political gain. Simple as that.